So in the second part, we're going to look at the second layer of our egg puzzle. And so it's going to fit inside the first one. So just to remind you, our first puzzle was an egg shell with a sort of zigzaggy opening. And inside this shell, we're going to fit the second puzzle. And for the second puzzle, we're going to make an egg that is cut vertically, and it's going to have a hinge so that it actually opens and closes like a door. In order to do this, the first thing we will have to do is actually design the hinge. And this is a mechanical part. We're going to design this and we'll have to make it relatively precise. So to construct the hinge, we're going to start with the cylinder. And again, just like before, I like to work in coordinates and I want to be relatively precise about it. So this cylinder right now has a radius of 10 millimeters and I will keep it 10 millimeters and I'll make sure it's exactly centered here on my work plane grid. And again, my grid is set to 1 millimeter, so if I move things around, they always snap to 1 millimeter grids. Okay. I will also bring in two boxes. One of them goes here and the other one will go a little bit further away over here. So let's switch to top view first. If I select all three pieces, I can center them. So this is going to be the basic shape of my hinge. So the hinge will actually, this part will be fixed, this part will be moving, and it's going to move around this circle here. So let's construct an actual hinge out of this. I will make the hinge parts quite large. In fact, I'll make them much larger than they probably have to be. Let's go out here to, let's keep the height at 20, but let's make the width, for example, 200 on this side, and I will do the same on the other side. So this hinge, I'll just change the width. This little box here, I'll change the width to 200. Okay. Now, these two pieces, let's switch to front view. I will also want to make them much higher. Okay, so I'll change their height to, for example, 300. All three pieces. I'll change the height of the cylinder to 300. And I'll also change the height of the other piece to 300 as well. Well, actually, let's make it 400. That's even better. Let's make it 400 because it's really not a problem if it's too tall, but it will be a problem later on if it's not tall enough. So maybe 400 is a pretty good height for that. Okay, and I'll also take all three of these pieces and bring them down a bit. Let's bring them down by about 100 units, 100 millimeters. Okay, so I forgot to select the cylinders, so I'm going to bring this one down by 100 units also. Everything snaps to the grid, so this right now these numbers are precise. Now, to make the actual hinge mechanism, for the time being, I'm going to hide this left piece so that we don't see it. And I'm going to work only on this right piece here. And what I want to do essentially is I want to cut two rectangular holes into this red shape. So I will bring in, let's switch to top view actually. I will bring in another box. What I'm just going to do is make this cube a little bit bigger. So I'm going to make this, let's make it 50 by 50. And right now I'm not worried about the height, but only about the width and the depth. So I will center the cube exactly around the center of my cylinder here. And the way to do that is to zoom in on it and make sure that this center is lined up with this line and this center is lined up with this line. So I'm just going to move it a tad over and up. So now it's exactly centered here. And so now let's switch to front view and worry about the height. Okay. 50 millimeters is a pretty good height of it for the cutout that I'm going to make here. So now I will take this little cube, I'll make a copy of it, and I'll move the second copy 100 millimeters up. I want this to be 100 exactly. Okay. So in the three-dimensional view, I now have two cubes that are sort of set into and around the cylinder, which is the sort of the moving part of the hinge. Now, what I will do is I'll select these two cubes. So shift-click will always allow you to select more than one piece. I will change them into holes. Then I will also select this wall part, and I'll merge the three shapes. So what I have now is two cutouts that are exactly where I want them to be. So now that I've done that, I'm going to want to bring back the other piece that I've hidden. So I click on the little light bulb here. That's going to show all these pieces. So now we need to make the grips, the parts of the hinge that are actually going to grip onto this axis over here. So I bring in another cylinder, and once again I'm going to center it exactly in the same place where the original cylinder was, except I'm going to change its measurement. Instead of a radius of 20, I'm going to give it a radius of 40 in either direction. So now we have to make sure the height is correct. So the size of these cutouts is exactly 50 millimeters, and I want there to be a little bit to spare, so I'm going to make the height of the cylinder 40 millimeters. Okay, and then I'll also bring it up by 5 millimeters so that it sits exactly inside of this opening. Okay, now I can duplicate it and bring the other piece, the duplicated one, up by 100 millimeters. So it's up by 100 millimeters, and then it's 105 millimeters from the work plane, so it sits exactly inside of this opening here. Now, for the mechanism to actually work, first of all, let's look at it in 3 dimensions. So I have these pieces here. I have the cylinder also and the wall. But if I temporarily hide these, you see that there aren't yet any holes. So I need to have holes in these cylinders for the other cylinder to pass through. And I'm also going to need cutouts here so that the piece will actually be able to snap on. So let's bring back the pieces that I've hidden. Let's temporarily hide just the big red wall. So the first thing I'll do is I'll make a copy of the long cylinder. I'll change the copy to a hole. I'll then also select these two guys. So now there are 3 shapes selected, these 2 hinge parts and the hole. And if I group them, then I've actually created the holes inside these 2 hinge parts. So if I now hide the original cylinder, you see that there's holes in here now. Okay, so that will actually allow this piece to move. And now I also need to create cutouts here. So let's switch back to top view. Let's bring in another box. Let's center the box quite precisely in the location where it has to be. So actually I'll bring it over here. I'll make it a little bit wider just in case. But I don't want it, of course, to be 20 millimeters wide, this snap-on piece, or else the hinge would just fall out. So I want this to be able to snap on. So I'll make it just a little bit narrower. Let's take away 2 millimeters on each side. Okay, so that's where the cutouts will be. Now let's switch to our front view. And of course we need to adjust also the height and the positioning of the little cutout piece. So let's first of all, well, we don't have to be very precise about positioning because the vertical positioning, because in any case we're going to change it to a hole and then just merge it with these two pieces, and we might as well merge with that piece at the same time. And then regroup, and now we have what we wanted, okay, which is the hinge with the cutouts and the snap-ons. I'm going to change the colors just for aesthetic reasons and make it multicolor so we can still sort of see which part was the original wall and which part was the original cylinder. Now let's unhide the hidden pieces. So this orange piece and this red piece can also be merged, grouped together. And for these also select the multicolor option. And now our hinge is finished. So let's just look at the whole thing in some kind of view where we can actually see it. Okay.